Senator King. Senator Cotton.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony today. I want to tie a couple bows on issues that came up earlier. Secretary Gertz, you said that our submarine programs are better or faster at integrating new technology right now than our surface ships are. The surface ships are learning from that. Could you explain why you see that difference?
Sir, and again, I was, I'm about 120 days now into the Navy, but in looking back in time, from my analysis, 10, 15 years ago, there was a realization that the submarine fleet was not modernizing its combat systems at the pace of the threat. And so it was a very deliberate action over a number of years to create the acquisition strategy where you can continually roll on new capabilities to the submarine while holding the design of the ship itself constant and improving. And so I think that's a good model for these long-lasting structures. You want to have a good structure with a lot of margin that you've got confidence that's reliable, but then have a way to roll on combat systems and new technologies and new algorithms as quickly as you can to pace with the threat.
Thank you. Admiral Mertz, you said that funding certainty is your biggest risk. You're grateful for the two-year budget we received earlier, but if you need funding certainty, I assume that you need a DoD appropriations bill passed this year?
Yes, sir, we do.
Not filibustered this summer?
No, sir.
And the Budget Control Act remains in effect for FY20 and 21. So if either that law is not repealed this year or the Congress doesn't pass a two-year budget next year, as we have each of the last two-year cycles, you'll once again face your biggest risk, which is funding uncertainty.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Let's move on to a few other topics. Admiral Mertz, we have 11 littoral combat ships. A story recently in Naval Institute said that 0 of those will deploy this year in 2018. Could you talk about why that's the case?
Yes, sir. So we're still, total numbers is 32. We barely have a third of the class. Our typical deployment models is 3 to 5 ships to 1 to keep 1 deployed. So this is really just math, and there's going to be gaps. That'll fill in over time. We're not concerned about it. We're learning a lot about the maintenance of the ship. We're going to a dual crew model over the next several years. So we feel like it's on track. We're not concerned about not deploying in 18. That's going to catch up over time as we fill in the rest of the class.
Was that anticipated?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
This year? Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's turn to fast attack submarines. Admiral Harris of PACOM has testified that he gets half of his fast attack submarine requirements met. Over the next decade or so, we'll reach the point where we are retiring fast attack submarines faster than we are building them. What is the Navy's plan to mitigate this issue? Because if it affects him, it likely affects General Scaparrotti in European Command as well.
Yes, sir. Every combatant commander is at about that batting average for the attack submarines they like to have in theater. The unfortunate reality is that there is not much we can do to recover that plan to get to 66 other than adding a third maybe SSN in candidate years. And we're looking at that very hard, and we're working very closely with the shipbuilders on their ability to fill that in. Even 66 is probably going to leave some gaps. I would not be surprised to see that number go up over time as we do assessments in the future. But that'll just add to the length of time it takes to get there. So that is the ship today that is furthest away from its requirement, and it's the last ship to achieve its requirement in the 30-year shipbuilding plan.
Thank you. It's disappointing we've reached this position.
Sir, if one thing we are going to add is we do have 5 cores available, so we funded 1 this year. We've identified the ships, so we think we can extend the life of 5 of those. So that will not solve the problem. It will mitigate a little bit the worst part of the dip, and so that's something we're studying closely in addition to what Admiral Mertz had mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
You're studying that, and you intend to make a report at what point?
Sir, we've got the first one funded this year. I would expect you will see those come in the budget. I'm fairly confident that we will add, again, given the criticality of that shortfall, that would be a very attractive way to at least add some service life through the worst part of that, through that dip.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Senator Cotton.